Hey guys, Chad Andrews here, Total Cyclist in the 33 Rule, and I'm being joined by a longtime friend of mine, co-commentator, and overall pretty decent guy, Brad Sohner. Hey Brad, what's up?
Pretty decent. That's the best you got for me.
Well, I mean, you haven't started talking yet.
Good, man. Good to see you.
I want to see you leveling up. We're talking about the Maryland Cycling Classic, which is coming up, which is probably, I mean, I guess you and I both can maybe agree or disagree. Of course, you and I have disagreed a lot, but we've come to a amicable, agree to disagree. Probably the biggest UCI race in the United States
No
since
question. Yeah, certainly. Biggest road race in America. No doubt about that.
Yeah, and for those of you who aren't quite familiar, Brad is actually going to be doing the live stream. I'll be doing the stage commentary, and it's completely different. But I don't know if you probably were starting in infancy, but I remember going up into the Richmond, Baltimore, Maryland, DC area on April on Easter Sunday in Richmond in a snowstorm on NBC. So like this whole Eastern Shore, Maryland, Virginia, Richmond area kind of gets me like flashbacks of like Spain Tuft winning, and all the Colombians and all these South American teams were all scrambling for gloves and stuff, and it snowed, and that's just an incredible memory to me. I'm pretty confident Labor Day weekend we're not going to get snow, which for you and I is going to be next weekend, but it'll be warm. What are you expecting from this race now that you've looked at the course, the venue, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we got some preliminary rosters too. It's finally a chance to see our pros back racing in the U.S. I mean, we haven't had that many opportunities to see Euro pros that we watched racing at the Tour de France and Giro d'Italia and Vuelta a España right now, come back and race. And I think seeing those people on American soil is important. It's important to be able to see your heroes up close and meet them and, maybe ride with them or at least see them ride in person. So I think I'm most excited for people to be able to see their favorite cyclists in person. It's one thing to see them on TV, but it is really cool to see your favorite pro walking around the venue.
Yeah, and actually Steve Brunner, who's with the event, you and I know well, he actually sent out some facts that he gave to you, which you forwarded to me, but kind of tell us some of the information that's kind of pertinent, like how many Americans, national champions, and that kind of stuff.
26 Americans. How cool is that? I mean, in an international field, 26 Americans have made it to the level where they can race at this race. If you're looking for a rider to cheer for, riders to cheer for as an American bike racing fan, there's definitely going to be plenty. So, yeah, exactly. So I think that's the coolest thing for me. If an American gets a win or even has a good ride, like an American in the break that has a chance to make it, that would be enough to be an awesome story for our big weekend of UCI road racing here in the U.S.
Yeah, and actually several of them learning would have an opportunity to race this race are actually going to be racing the Vuelta, which is the 3-week stage race that's going on concurrently at the same time. But I mean, I'm looking at the list like now, Brad, and I obviously never won with a gun. If you start at the top, Michael Matthews from Team Bike Exchange Jayco, the Australian kid's got a huge kick, and he also can get over some bumps. So I would think, going straight out of the gate, he would have to be one of the favorites.
Yeah, I mean, watching any of these World Tour pros sprint is going to be cool, but I'm also excited for the Pro Conti riders to have a go at it. These human-powered health riders or someone like that, I think could very well win against World Tour riders. And that's maybe, the most exciting part for them is they're going to get a chance to win not only on home soil, pretty close to their sponsors, who are almost all going to be there, but, also winning against some heavy World Tour talent. There's not many people that can say I beat Michael Matthews in a sprint, but there may be someone after the race.
Yeah, and briefly, we can kind of just giving everybody an idea. And of course, this is just a general idea who's going to be there, but you've got Quinn Simmons, who raced really well and really strong at the Tour de France. He's the guy that you probably could be looking at getting in one of the breakaways. We talked about Team Bike Exchange Jayco, Premier Tech. The Israeli Premier Tech team is bringing a pretty strong team. Sepp Van Mark is with them. EF Education, Easy Post, Nielsen Palace is going to be there. So two guys that race really strong in the Tour de France are going to be coming racing at the Maryland Cycling Classic based on the preliminary start list that we have.
And I was looking at that list earlier. I was also thinking back to national championships because this is a very similar setup to nationals where you kind of come back for one day. A lot of these guys will have, been in Europe for most of the season. It'll be a one-day trip back to race. There's an advantage to being an American on home soil racing there. So it'll be interesting to see how long travel with the one-day race format lines up. But I was looking for riders that had good rides at nationals, thinking about, because the course is kind of similar to, it's not, it's not too tough. The sprinter can definitely get over any of these big climbs. So, if it's not a breakaway, we should see a good sprint.
Yeah, and that's where you have like Robin Carpenter. I mean, I would think that if he's in good form, he'd go. Team Nova Nordisk, of course, Phil Sutherland, this intricately involved with that team since its inception. They've got a couple of Americans on their team. It looks like one that's going to be coming. Pro Touch, Republic of South Africa, all those except for one Eritrean is going to be here, along with Panama es Cultura y Valores, of course, a Panamanian team. Team Medellin, of course, Thad Fisher is going to be with those guys. Team Coratec out of Italy. Of course, Hagen's Bourbon Action out of USA. There is two guys on that roster, Riccatello and Garrison. And of course, Michael Garrison, kid's a stud, going to be a stud in the future. So yeah, there's some pretty strong talent that's going to be coming here. And I think that leads to, I guess, my question for you. Do you have a sense that this is going to be a breakaway race or it's going to be a drag race to the finish line? Or do we not know enough about the course?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a breakaway for sure. There will definitely be a select group. I do think there's enough World Tour talent here that they'll make it selective again, just like nationals. I mean, the big teams will come to the front, drive it, get rid of anyone that doesn't need to be there. But I don't think it's ones and twos crossing the finish line. So there's going to be a sprint one way or another. It's not going to be the course that takes people out, but it will be the tempo and the speed, that gets set at the top that will, draw people out of here. So if you don't still have that high end speed left at the end of the season, you might be in trouble in Maryland.
And that does beg the question, this isn't something where somebody can carry the long-term fitness after the Tour de France. After the Tour de France, if you're not racing the Vuelta, like Roglic or some of these other guys, man, you go through that transition period. It's like, oh crap, I've got this UCI race coming up. How much do I beg off my training from the Tour de France and then restart it again? Some of these guys might be able to carry that fitness for that long, but still, if you want to win it, you've got to come in pretty fit because it will be an absolute sleigh ride, my guess.
Yeah, and there's going to be some guys that simply don't have it at the end of the year. There will be riders that just aren't there, whether it's mentally or physically, whether they're checked out waiting to ride on their 2023 team or just burnt out from a long season. It takes a tough rider to be able to put in a really strong, hard performance come Labor Day at the end of the season.
Speaking of tough and hard, you just gave me 5 minutes of greatness, Brad.
Good. That's what I'm here for.
That's what we're here for. Well, that's kind of a preview that we're doing. You can check out MarylandCyclingClassic.com. You can also check out their Instagram feed with Rebecca running that. And we're looking forward to it. I mean, I'm really excited. I'm excited to find out who I'm working with. I understand that you may be working with a former Pro Tour, World Tour rider. So that stuff's all going to be happening. But come and show up is it the Shore? No, what are they calling I have to get that right. I remember with the Baltimore, that area, it's called something. It's going to hit me afterwards. But anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Brad, anything else before I let you go?
No, I'm excited. Get back to some good old fashioned Euro style road racing here in the US. It's going to be the biggest one. Crabs
are good or no?
Yeah, of course. You got to do a little seafood boil down in Maryland. You're not a crab pot fan?
Well, I'm going to have to try.
Got to tear the bag open. Oh yeah. I'll take you. I'll find you a good spot.
All right. Sounds good. Brad Sohner, Chad Andrews. We'll see you guys at the Maryland Cycling Classic.